Hello and welcome to NewsX World. I'm Joshua Barnes. Tensions are soaring along the India-Pakistan border as suspected Pakistani drones have been sighted at 26 strategic locations from Baramulla in North Kashmir to Bhuj in southern Gujarat. These include sensitive zones along both the line of control and the international border, where armed drones are posing threats to civilian and military installations. In Jammu and Samba sectors, Pakistani rangers have opened unprovoked fire across the international border. The Border Security Force is retaliating decisively. Meanwhile, India's air defence systems intercepted and destroyed incoming drones in Lalgarh sector of Kathua. In the diplomatic arena, the White House has confirmed that US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in contact with both India and Pakistan. President Donald Trump has urged immediate de-escalation. This even as the IMF greenlights $2.3 billion in funding for Pakistan, a move India has criticised, warning of potential misuse for cross-border aggression. Of course, this situation is evolving. This is an ongoing situation that is impacting many areas along the international border and line of control. I'm first going to be joined by Colonel Barsha, who is a defence expert. Colonel, thank you for being here with us in this difficult time. Of course, we saw action yesterday in India. We had confirmation earlier today that 300 to 400 drones had been fired from Pakistan into India. From what we can see, another night of similar action. What's your response to what has been happening in recent hours?
Thank you so much, Joshua. As we all can see, the entire world can see, entire India can see, 7th of May, we launched our Operation Sindoor, and since then it has been this is the third sleepless night that India is actually having. And there has been a slurry of drones that have been relentlessly being fired on. Thanks to our Army Air Defense, they have all been neutralized. But it is actually very difficult to gauge that what it is that actually Pakistan is trying to do, because they do not have a sustenance power to match our firepower index, but they are going full on blazing, and it's the second night in a row. And they're about, as you mentioned earlier, there are 400 to 500 drones that we are talking about, and looking at the magnitude and the quantity of drones that have come today, tonight, is also going to be similar in count. So the question here is, why is it they are doing it? Because Pakistan being a neighboring enemy state, I do know by seeing the past wars and the conflicts we have with them that they are not someone who is poor in strategy. So there is something hidden, is what I feel. It's my view totally, that there is something bigger that they are planning maybe, and it is just these drones are something like a noise or a camouflage in which they're hiding something bigger, and we have to be very prepared. Our blood is boiling. We really want an answer and we really want to take some action against it. But I think it is also a way of Pakistan to to cause some provocation to India. It is the time that our government and armed forces have to think and show restraint with respect to any military action that we think about.
Yes, absolutely. Also joining us is Berzine Wagmar, a foreign affairs expert, who is joining us from London. Berzine, thank you for joining us once again this hour. We've seen a clear divide in the action from India and Pakistan. Operation Sindoor specifically targeting in precision strikes terrorist infrastructure last night and potentially tonight as well. Pakistan choosing a different approach. What's the significance in the ways in which both armies are carrying out military action amid rising tensions?
Well, I would like to comment, following up on what Colonel Rai mentioned as a military analyst, and she queried aloud as to what is Pakistan's end game in this line of action that they're pursuing. Perhaps I could offer something as a historian. General Munir is an ideologue. He's a hardliner Muslim, a doctrinaire general, in sharp contrast to his predecessor, General Bajwa, who did call for bearing the hatchet with India. Now, that's never going to happen with the Pakistan army, but he did call for some sort of modus vivendi. General Munir does not share his worldview and clearly kept his counsel to himself when he was his junior. Now he's the man in charge in more ways than one, given that he is the one who saw that Imran Khan was eased out of power, staged managed elections took place in 2024 last year, and the army's man is Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in power, ostensibly running Pakistan. General Munir needs, it would appear, a hit. And I don't just mean hitting India, which of course he's doing so, but metaphorically, in that the army has come in for a lot of flack in having seen Imran Khan, a national hero and a sportsman, eased out of power and in jail on pretty much trumped up charges, some would argue. And the army did come in, its reputation did come in for a battering since last year, and many Pakistanis, especially Gen Z Pakistanis, Joshua, haven't forgotten the army for that. He needs to salvage something of his reputation, so he needs to show that he can stand up to India. What better way to galvanize Pakistan and Pakistanis than to tackle on their existential enemy since 1947? And of course, it also, as I mentioned, and I must iterate, fits in with his doctrinaire view of as a hardcore, hardline Sunni Islamist general. In that context, he is slightly different from other previous generals who have been, like the late General Musharraf, who was definitely a measured, moderate Muslim. That cannot be said for General Munir.
Yes, also joining us is Major General Sadaka G, a defence expert. Thank you, Major General, for being here with us tonight. We have, of course, we've been showing visuals of apparent drone attacks from Pakistan on India, but there has also been reports of continued action along the line of control. Yesterday, the drones that the MEA confirmed were sent from Pakistan reportedly contained reconnaissance technology on a reconnaissance trip. What's the significance of the way that Pakistan is going about this military action in response to India's very specific and targeted military incursions on terrorists in retaliation, of course, to the Pahalgam terror attack on the 22nd of April?
Yeah, Joshua, good evening. Thank you for getting me onto your show, and grateful to NewsX World for catching me somewhere in the very remotest of the islands of Greece, close to Athens. The connectivity is poor, kindly bail me out. Now, as regards your question, let me very briefly respond to it by saying that whatever Pakistan is doing today is simply for its to extend its survivability. Its sustainability as a military power or as a nation state or as with constitutional authority and power is highly questionable. Anyone, a student of geopolitics and the political science, would bear me out when you go deeper into the morass of Pakistan, what it is going through today. We all sitting and discussing on the TV may not be able to paint the right picture what's going on in Pakistan. It's total blackout. I'm here in Greece. I have come across many Pakistanis in past 3 to 4 days. Things are really worse, terrible. People are running out of the country. Army soldiers do not want to serve in the army. There is a divide in the Pakistan army below the rank of colonel. There are two different groups, above rank of colonel, brigadiers and above, and colonels and below. There is also a division in the political circle. Balochistan being what it is since last night, I'm getting to hear that regardless of the fundamentals being adhered to, Balochistan is adamant in going absolutely blatant and clear and declaring its independence. So likewise, today Pakistan is in a very tough situation. The Prime Minister himself, I don't know. I'm told the Chief of the Army Staff, he is in a house arrest. This is, I'm connected to many think tanks here in Europe, and I'm getting very confidential messages that he is in house arrest. I cannot stand by the veracity of the fact. And also, I'm told that the negotiation is on for releasing Imran Khan from the prison. So, if these are the kinds of development taking place, Pakistan today is left with only 4 days of intense raid in armed forces. Every country, they have the quantum of ammunition which is kept ready for combat situations. And if there is an intense kind of a combat situation, every nation prepare for ammunition stock. They're left with 4 days. Out of 4 days, past 2.5 days have actually consumed good about half a day of intense rate of ammunition. Second, they do not have logistics. The fuel is also deficient. Fuel in terms of tanks cannot move out of the empty garages. Their vehicles, the army cannot mobilize. The last mobilization which took place in the independent Pakistan is the 12th Corps, which was located at Quetta. To my horror and surprise, I am also a very avid reader and research scholar of Pakistan. It is for the first time this corps has moved out from Quetta, which is the capital of Balochistan, away from Balochistan. So you imagine the density of the army presence and the troop density. So that is a welcome situation for Balochi Liberation Army to play merry hell and
Yes.
declare their independence. Nobody. So therefore, what I'm coming to is Pakistan today is in a total smozzle. The leadership there.
Yes,
The
Major
Prime
General,
Minister.
I'm sorry to interject, but I just want to come now, as we're playing some visuals on screen, just highlighting an IMF sanctioning of $2.3 billion in funds for Pakistan. We hope to get those back on screen in a moment. Here they are. Retired Colonel Barsha Rai, I will come back to you because questions have been raised about why these funds have been released given the ongoing situation. This is $2.3 billion worth of funds in a country which is currently involved in provocations and escalations in the dispute and conflict with India. Where are the assurances that these funds will be used for the people of Pakistan and not for a continued assault on India?
Joshua, so yes, I did hear this report with respect to IMF giving the bail grant to Pakistan of $2.3 billion. And it definitely comes as a shock to India because given the current scenario of how things are going and the entire world is witnessing the onslaught of Pakistan with respect to the drone warfare it is going on. So it is really, really disappointing for India. And I would not mince my words saying that I have absolutely no doubts that the entire money will be funded into terrorism activities. I would not even call it army activities. And the only solace or the only thing positive or hopeful thing that I can take out of it is maybe it was given as a bailout to Pakistan to de-escalate the matters which is going around. Maybe it was a treaty or an agreement that US gave them to de-escalate this, but at this particular point, so that the things do not escalate to a war point. So that is my take about it. However, it is absolutely disappointing, and I take it that additional funds means additional ammunition for getting my citizens killed.
Yes, Berzine Wagmar, coming back to you. We are seeing on screen India's response to this. Of course, India abstaining from the IMF vote, which of course has approved this loan. We spoke about this earlier in the hour, but I want to revisit this. Of course, the United States play a pivotal role in geopolitics, given the relations and recent relations between India and the United States. Do you think India may feel betrayed by this action?
I don't believe India would feel betrayed, but it would consider it more of the same, depressingly familiar, in that the West has taken a stance over the years to see that Pakistan doesn't completely keel over. Now, that is something which Pakistan has capitalized on. There is this belief, which is not entirely unfounded in Western capitals, Joshua, that what if the state goes into a meltdown? And of course, its strategic assets, the much vaunted nukes, were to be taken over by some rogue Islamist element. That card has always been played by Islamabad and the Pakistan Army and the deep state, that we are a responsible professional corps of soldiers, which incidentally they are in one sense. I have to say they still follow British traditions like the Indian Army, and they are professionally run as a cadre. Nothing runs professionally in Pakistan for the most part, fit as a country, but the army does run its show professionally. So one has to put that on record. So the question is, they've been able to play up that factor, and obviously to show that they can't have a complete balkanization of the country or a meltdown. This has worked in its favor, and they have garnered political mileage over 12 IMF bailouts since 1988. Pakistan does face those issues, including climate change, more acutely than India, and we will see that in a month or two once the southwest monsoon occurs. Because, Joshua, if I could just also segue in the factor of the Indus Waters Treaty, which has been in abeyance now announced by India. It's the dry season as we speak across the subcontinent, and what will occur is something, of course, it is acute just now with the levels depleting as we speak due to the heat. But once the monsoon starts, it will play havoc with Pakistan, as indeed it has in 2005 and also in 2022. So these factors are to be considered in a composite sense to see why Pakistan needs these handouts. And of course, what is not discussed is that Pakistan needs to reform its tax structure. It is appalling where barely 1 or 2% of its population, working population, does cough up taxes for the national exchequer. And precious little has been achieved in terms of putting pressure on Pakistan to reform its tax base and policies to garner more earnings at home, instead of just living on handouts.
Yes, Major General Sudhakar G, I will come back to you. Of course, building on this news of the latest IMF loan, I want to look more broadly now at the geopolitics around this. Of course, we've had recent visits and recent conversations from several foreign secretaries. The Deputy Foreign Secretary of Saudi Arabia has been in Pakistan today. Also, Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, making phone calls reportedly to both governments, both in Delhi and Islamabad. What role will the geopolitical world leaders have to play in this ongoing conflict and rising tensions?
Joshua, excellent question that you have raised in the present context when the world geopolitical churn is being experienced across all segments, whether it is the Central Europe or the Middle East. Under the present prevailing circumstances, Donald Trump, despite his very spontaneous commitment that he made during the election campaigning and the mandate, uh, it is almost 4 months down the line that we have not seen any sign of peace except for talk and tall promises or ceasefire, be it between Russia and Ukraine or Hamas and Israel. So to have a third conflict breaking out, I mean, this is in sequence of pandemic having broken out, lasted for more than 3 years or 4 years. And post-pandemic, we had Russia-Ukraine war. Thereafter, the Middle East. And look at the supply chain disruptions which have taken place, rise in fuel, fertilizer, food, and the complete sea lanes of communications have been under sabotage or attack or under the piracy threats. whether it is Red Sea or Suez Canal and down south towards Indian Ocean region, right up to Malacca Strait. So therefore, as a superpower, America has got a role and responsibility. Whether they are able to discharge the mandate or not, it's a different issue. A lot of people amongst us call it as a declining power, but then something is better than nothing. It is better to have a superpower in a declining status than not to have a superpower whose voice is totally entirely ignored and not heard. So therefore, what I'm trying to indicate is that there is a book written by, I think in your channel only, Daniel Marquet had come once, sometime you had invited me as a panelist. He has written a book called A No Exit from Pakistan. And that book is a very well researched document, and any scholar of geopolitics would do good to go through that book number of times. It is very convincingly laid out that no matter how tormenting the relationship between Pakistan and USA may be, but USA under the circumstances cannot exit Pakistan. It's given out many reasons. Three primary reasons is that Pakistan, given the fact that USA, as per the National Security Strategy of USA of 2022, October, November, it came out. The central theme of the security strategy is China as the number one threat to USA's existence as a superpower. So therefore, anything and everything USA does will contribute towards, containing, countering, and contesting China. Because the fact of the matter is driven by the Thucydide trap, which says that no established power will ever allow any rising power to come up to its footing. It's Professor Ellison, I think, yes, Harvard University, he wrote this
Yes.
paper, 2015 had come out. So therefore, what I'm coming to in short, long and short answer to your question is that America cannot allow itself to divorce from Pakistan. It will continue to continue to have its footprint in Pakistan. One. Number two, China is the elephant in the room. China also knows that despite all kinds of misgivings and lack of cooperation, lots of engineers being killed, uh, it is looking for a short route for its energy security. That is from Gwadar right up to Kashgar, and from there on it distributes and uh, its oil
Yes.
and energy all over the country. So therefore, both the stakeholders, these are all polycentric stakeholders of the multipolarity in the world today, which are playing an important role we cannot lose sight of. So, given the fact that China has its interest, USA also has its interest in Pakistan, because we know the situation in Afghanistan today. China is making very deep inroads into
Yes,
Afghanistan and
Major
making.
General Sudhakar Ji, I apologise to cut you off. We are unfortunately out of time. Thank you for joining us. Also, thank you to retired Colonel Barsha Rai, and also thank you to Berzine Wagmar. Of course, to bring you an update, there has been substantial action along the line of control, North and West India. 26 locations targeted. Reports of violations across the line of control, with also injuries reported in Punjab. We'll be back shortly with more of the latest updates in the ongoing India-Pakistan tensions.